Talk to the Sky, Christopher Daniels, Frank Fizan, collectively known as SoCal Uncensored or
SCU! This is Catch, Hook, and Shoot, the worst podcast I've ever been on. Word.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Catch, Hook, and Shoot. Today is Sunday, April the 12th. Happy Easter to everybody who celebrates, and everybody else, happy Sunday to you. I hope everybody's staying safe and healthy during this quarantine that everybody's under at the moment. But first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for listening, watching, and subscribing on YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any place you get your podcasts from. Make sure you're following on social media on all platforms. It's at Catch, Hook, Shoot. Head to patreon.com/catchhookshoot for all your bonus content, and prowrestlingtees.com/catchhookshoot for all your t-shirt needs. And if you ever want to shoot me an email, it's catchhookshoot@gmail.com. So let's jump right into everything going on in the world of pro wrestling this week, kicking it all off like we always do with the match of the week. So this week's match of the week comes from Wrestlemania last week, which was, a very unique Wrestlemania to say the least, but I don't think it's going to come as any surprise to anybody. My pick for match of the week is the Boneyard match between The Undertaker and AJ Styles. For what it was, I mean, the cinematic type matches can be hit or miss. I mean, when I first heard about the Boneyard match, I immediately thought of the cemetery match between Sting and Vampiro from years ago from WCW, which was I'll just say it was horrible. But this one it was really well done, really well produced. I love the fact that Undertaker went to kind of what I had said he might do, kind of a hybrid type character, the back to the American Badass, the biker gimmick, but still had some of the kind of supernatural overtones of the Dead Man. So I thought it was a great presentation, a great fight between Taker and AJ, and I just thought it was all around a good match. So yeah, that's my match of the week, the Boneyard match from WrestleMania between The Undertaker and AJ Styles. So let's get into our next segment here, which is kind of my top 3 highlights of the week, and of course I am talking about the 3 count. So first up on the 3 count is the match I was just talking about, the Boneyard match with Undertaker and AJ Styles. Definitely one of the highlights of WrestleMania. It was, for my money, it was the match of the night for night 1 of WrestleMania. And just like I said, just a great presentation on that one. And it was, I found it highly entertaining. I thought it was a great showing from both Undertaker and AJ Styles, and this is something, this type of match presentation, whatever you want to call it, what's being known now, I guess, is the cinematic type matches. It's something that's going to extend, or could extend, the Undertaker's career if that's what he wants. So I mean, this is something that he could do every year at WrestleMania, and if it's done right, like this one was, and used sparingly, like I said, it's something that could be very good going forward. Now, second up on the 3 count is the other cinematic match that we saw at WrestleMania. I'm talking about the Firefly Funhouse match between The Fiend and John Cena. It was interesting. I thought it was entertaining. There was a lot of mixed reactions online about this one. Some people loved it. Some people hated it. They thought it was, corny and cheesy and stuff like that. And, I liked it. I thought it was good. I wouldn't exactly call it a match, so to speak. It was more of a production. I guess that might be the best word for it, as a production, because I definitely wouldn't call it a match, but it kind of was just like basically the Fiend just getting inside the head of John Cena, and kind of almost appearing to lay Cena to rest, like to Kind of almost looked like the end of John Cena. Now, I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if that was, what could be considered his retirement or his exit from WWE, or his exit from in-ring competition in WWE. But, yeah, I mean, for what it was, for the circumstances that WWE had to work with for getting WrestleMania out there, I thought it was pretty good. I found it entertaining. It was a little bit trippy. I mentioned to one of my friends, this must be what it's like to trip on acid. But I thought it was, I found it to be an entertaining production. So yeah, that's number 2 on the 3 count for this week. And number 3 or number 1, because was probably one of the best highlights of the week, was the last man standing match between Edge and Randy Orton. I mean, these guys went out there and put on a 40-minute match. Now granted, it was pre-recorded, so I don't know if there were cuts or stuff like that that you would get with like a normal television show, or if it was just filmed straight through in one shot. But either way, I mean, a fantastic match between Edge and Orton. Definitely a top contender for my match of the week this week. I mean, the only reason the Boneyard match edged it out is because, well, it's The Undertaker. I mean, come on, it's me, But, yeah, Edge showing that he has not lost a step. His first one-on-one match in 9 years. Think about that. The guy's been out of the ring for 9 years. He comes back. His first match is a last man standing match at WrestleMania with Randy Orton. And he killed it. I mean, both of these guys killed it. I mean, they're 2 of the best in WWE. So I'm happy to see Edge back, and yeah, I can't wait to see what's coming next for him. So it should be interesting to see what's going on with Edge going forward. So getting into some of the news and rumors and results from the week, starting off with some WrestleMania results. We got a new Universal Champion in Braun Strowman. Strowman taking the place of Roman Reigns, who pulled out of WrestleMania due to health concerns. I mean, nothing. You can't fault Roman for that. He's got a family to think about, plus his own health issues that makes him, higher risk for the COVID-19 that's making its way around the world. So, Roman made a choice that was best for him, best for his family. So, can't fault him for that. But Braun Strowman was the one to take his place against Goldberg, and Strowman is your new Universal Champion. We've also got a new NXT Women's Champion. Charlotte Flair defeated Rhea Ripley. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross are your new Women's Tag Team Champions. Rob Gronkowski, your new 24/7 champion. And last and certainly not least, Drew McIntyre defeated Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. He is your new WWE champion. Long time coming and well deserved. So I'm anxious to see how things are going to go with Drew as WWE champion. And I'm looking forward to it. I think he's going to be a great champion. He's going to have a great run. So I'm very anxious to see how his reign as champion plays out. Moving on to Monday Night Raw, talking about Drew McIntyre, they showed some footage from after WrestleMania with the Big Show coming out and challenging McIntyre pretty much immediately after he won the title. And they had a match. McIntyre was victorious. It was a little confusing. I didn't understand. I mean, the Big Show just kind of came out of left field. He's not on TV regularly anymore. I don't know if they brought him out just because he's got, his new Netflix show is out now, and they're just promoting that, or, so they want to have him on TV a little more, or what the case might be. I mean, the two of them put on a great match. It was just kind of, there was no, there didn't seem to be much of a point to it, other than, the Big Show just coming out and saying, I want a title shot, or I want a match. So, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, like I said, it was a good match. I don't know if Big Show's going to continue to be on Raw going forward, if they're going to build a program with him and Drew, or if this was just a one-off. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Also on Monday Night Raw, we saw the Raw debut of Bianca Belair. Now, we saw her main roster debut at WrestleMania during the Street Profits match. She, of course, is married to... oh, and his name is escaping me. The one guy from the Street Profits, Montez Ford, I believe it is. But yeah, and she also made her Raw debut this past Monday, and it turned out to be, it was originally Bianca versus Zelina Vega. Then it turned into a six-person tag match, and Bianca Belair, the Street Profits, Zelina Vega, Angel Garza, and Austin Theory ended up wrestling, having three matches, basically a tag team match and a women's match and a six-person match. So Bianca Belair now apparently part of the Raw roster. Also had a really, really good match on Monday Night Raw between Apollo Crews and Aleister Black. I mean, they got 45 minutes, something like that, and which is fantastic. I mean, nobody's going to question Aleister Black. He's been kind of a slow build the last several months, but Apollo Crews, to see him put back in this position and getting that kind of time and putting on a match like that with Aleister Black on Monday Night Raw is fantastic. I hope they continue to use him in that capacity, because Apollo Crews is a great in-ring performer. So hopefully he continues to get that kind of TV time. Also on Raw, we saw the return of Nia Jax, so very happy about that. She's got so many haters online, saying that she botches all the time and she's hurt so many people. I'm sorry, show me a list of people she's hurt. I know she broke Becky Lynch's face one time with an errant punch, but beyond that, I mean, accidents happen. Seth Rollins has hurt people. I mean, the list of wrestlers that have accidentally hurt other wrestlers is virtually endless. I mean, it happens. It's not a gentle sport. It is a contact sport. People are going to get hurt now and then. So, but anyway, Nia Jax returns. I'm curious to see how they're going to work her into the Raw Women's division. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Moving on to NXT, some information regarding this kidnapping angle that's been going on the last few weeks. We've seen Joaquin Wilde and Raul Mendoza both abducted by two guys in an SUV wearing lucha-style masks. And apparently this is this was inspired by a hostage or a terrorist group type thing from back in the 70s. But that was the inspiration for the whole angle. But apparently this is leading up to the debut of Jorge Bali, who better known as King Cuerno in Lucha Underground and El Hijo del Fantasma in AAA. So yeah, apparently this whole kidnapping angle is going to lead up to his debut, as apparently I would guess the leader of the kidnappers, so to speak. Now I'm wondering if Joaquin Wilde and Raul Mendoza are going to end up being brainwashed, quote unquote, to work with him or to serve him, as it were. So we'll have to find out how that's all going to play out. It was also announced this week that there is going to be a tournament to crown an interim cruiserweight champion. This is kind of interesting because the current cruiserweight champion, of course, Jordan Devlin, part of NXT UK, is in the UK, obviously not able to travel to the United States right now to defend the title. So they're going to crown an interim cruiserweight champion. So as far as I know, that is a first for WWE. Normally they would just kind of hold up the title or vacate the title and have a tournament to crown a new champion. That's that. But they're saying this is an interim champion, so I would assume this champion at some future date will take on Jordan Devlin to unify those titles and crown an undisputed cruiserweight champion. And also a little bit different the way WWE is doing this tournament. It's going to be an 8-man tournament, but it's going to be a round-robin style tournament, kind of like the New Japan G1, where it's going to be 2 blocks, 4 men in each block, and the winner of each block will go head-to-head for the championship. So interesting format, interesting concept. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this one's going to play out and who's going to be the interim cruiserweight champion. I'm sure we'll find that out over the next several weeks. Io Shirai is the #1 contender for the NXT Women's title now, so I would assume at some point there will be a match between Io Shirai and Charlotte Flair. Io was victorious in that the women's ladder match on NXT this past week, which was originally supposed to take place during NXT TakeOver during WrestleMania weekend, obviously, which didn't happen. Also saw a video of Finn Balor calling out Walter So they're still building that feud with Finn Balor and Walter and Imperium. So I'm fairly certain we're going to see a match whenever NXT is able to do another takeover event, whenever the wrestlers are able to travel again. We're going to see a match between Finn Balor and Walter for the NXT UK Championship, and I am all in for that one. That should be an amazing match between those two guys. But the big thing from NXT this past week was the match between Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. These guys fought all over the place and just beat the living crap out of each other for a good half an hour or so. We saw Candice LeRae basically make a heel turn, siding with her husband, Johnny Gargano. Originally, she came in, looked like she turned against Gargano, gave him a low blow. Turned out that turned out to be a swerve. Gargano was wearing a cup. LeRae jumped back in the ring, gave a low blow to Ciampa, and Gargano was able to pick up the victory. And as they were leaving the arena, we saw a quick glimpse of Scarlett Bordeaux and Killer Cross sitting in a car outside. So this was taped ahead of time. It was well planned out, so obviously that was meant to be seen. So I'm wondering how they're going to fit into this puzzle, so to speak. Are they going to are Scarlett and Cross going to be against Gargano and LeRae? Are they going to be going after Tommaso Ciampa? I'm interested to see where this is going to go, because honestly, they are two of my favorite independent wrestlers, and now they're both in NXT. So I cannot wait to see what they're going to be doing there once their program starts up, whatever it's going to be. On the SmackDown side, we've seen the return of Tamina in the last several weeks. She was part of the SmackDown Women's Championship match at Wrestlemania. Came out this week, laid down a challenge to Bayley, and Bayley kind of threw Sasha Banks under the bus a little bit. She kind of told Tamina, well, if you want your title shot, you got to beat Sasha first. Sasha did not look too happy about that. And, as I mentioned on the show before, they're supposed to be building towards a rivalry with Bayley and Sasha Banks, so I'm sure this is going to be another part of that. Bayley's kind of using Sasha as a human shield, more or less. So I'm sure this is, just another link in that chain that's going to eventually lead to a Bayley and Sasha match, probably at SummerSlam is what the speculation is. If we're able to have SummerSlam by that time, who knows? Coming up next week on SmackDown, we got another triple threat match for the tag team championships, but it's a triple threat singles match. It's Jey Uso, The Miz, and Big E. So basically, the members of the tag teams that did not compete in the triple threat ladder match at WrestleMania are going to be competing in a triple threat match on SmackDown, and this is also going to be for the tag team titles. So kind of weird that they're using singles matches to determine tag team champions, but hey, it's WWE. They can do pretty much whatever they want. We also saw the debut of the Forgotten Sons on SmackDown. Had pretty much of a squash match against the Lucha House Party. And, I personally, I like the Forgotten Sons. I like the gimmick. I like the team. I like the guys that are on the team. So hopefully, they didn't get used a whole lot in NXT. Not that they got used poorly. They looked good when they were used. They just weren't used a lot. So hopefully we'll see more of them on SmackDown. I saw somebody mention online, hopefully it doesn't happen to them. Same thing that happened to Sanity, which was, they got called up and then just kind of faded away. I hope the same thing. I hope they are right there in the tag team mix on SmackDown, because I am a fan of the Forgotten Sons. So hopefully we will see them on TV somewhat regularly, or as regularly as can be currently. Then at the end of SmackDown, we saw Braun Strowman taking on Shinsuke Nakamura, and after the match, Bray Wyatt basically came out and challenged Braun for the Universal Championship. It's Bray is kind of going back through his own history and kind of righting all of his past wrongs as far as losses and stuff, because the original Bray Wyatt character, the Wyatt family, he had some great rivalries, but he always seemed to lose. Whoever he was in a rivalry with, when it came down to the match to the blow off to that rivalry, Bray Wyatt would always lose. The guy never won a match hardly. So and now with this new version of Bray Wyatt, he's kind of remedying all of these things. We've seen him take out Daniel Bryan. Now we've seen him take out John Cena. Kind of all of his arch nemesis from his past life, so to speak. And now he's going after Braun Strowman, basically saying, I brought you into this world, and now I have to take you out. So looks like we're going to be getting Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman for the Universal title sometime, and this is another one. I'm right here for that one. So I would think that we are probably going to see Bray Wyatt regain that Universal Championship that he originally lost to Goldberg. Moving into some miscellaneous WWE news, some kind of sad news that was announced this week that the XFL officially has shut down. There will be no 2021 season. They've ceased operations. All the employees have been let go. And, kind of sad because the XFL was good this time around. I was enjoying it. It was good football. It wasn't so gimmicky like the first iteration of the XFL. And it was... was getting a good response from fans. So kind of sad. The XFL is done already through no fault of their own this time. Some big news out of WWE. The Revival has been granted their release, which they had requested. For the past year, they had been asking for a release. So they have been granted their release, and from what it appears, WWE's statement said they have been granted their immediate release, which the interpretation online from all the dirt sheets is that there is no compete clause. So they can go pretty much wherever they want right now. Not saying they're going to pop up on AEW or anyplace else in the next week or so because, well, yeah, they can't. Just because they can't travel anywhere and, things like that. And there really is nothing live right now. By all accounts, AEW has all of their shows taped for the next several weeks. So I don't see them showing up anywhere real soon. But I'm sure as soon as is allowed, we will see them somewhere. I would think probably AEW is the most likely bet. So we'll have to keep an eye out where the Revival is going to pop up next. Money in the Bank in Boston was officially canceled, but it sounds like they're just going to be doing it at the Performance Center like they've been doing everything else because they're, they've been talking about the qualifying matches starting next week. So Money in the Bank, the event is still on, but the location obviously has been changed. I would assume it'd be in the Performance Center because the city of Boston basically shut down the live event. So we'll see how that works. But as far as WWE is concerned, it would appear Money in the Bank is still on. It was also announced just today, actually, that an on-screen talent, not a member of the wrestling roster, but an on-screen talent for WWE was diagnosed with COVID-19. No names were released. One dirt sheet did put out a couple of names. Not sure if it's true, so I'm not going to say the names because it's not anybody's business. I mean, it's their personal medical information. It's not anybody's business. WWE, yes, they need to inform their other employees so they can get checked out if they need to or anything like that. But beyond that, beyond anybody who's come in contact with this individual, it's nobody's business. So, people are saying, oh, who is it? Who is it? It's nobody's business. I don't want to know who it is because it's not my business. My only concern is I hope they recover from it. I hope they get well. So, and that's it. And then some other big news that's been all over the internet this week is an interview that Ronda Rousey gave where she kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, talked about wrestling as fake fighting and fans being ungrateful. And you know what? I don't disagree with her, especially about the ungrateful fans. I mean, she came into so much fanfare and the fans just kind of turned on her really for no reason. Maybe they think she became champion too fast. She got to, became the top woman in the company too fast. But, I mean, really, what do you expect? It's Ronda Rousey, the most well-known female athlete in the world. And what, do you want her doing dark matches and matches on main event? Did you want her to go through NXT and go through the whole, process of NXT house shows and then, maybe in a year get on NXT TV, then maybe in another 2 years get called up to Raw or SmackDown? No. It's Ronda Rousey. They're going to throw her right into the main event because that's how they are going to make the most money with her. They have to justify the amount of money that they're paying her, and the way they do that is to make as much profit as possible off of her. That's how business works, so I don't know why people were surprised when she immediately became a main eventer on the main roster and got a prominent place in WrestleMania for her first ever wrestling match. But anyway, yeah, she made some comments, and she got some backlash from some members of the WWE roster, like Nia Jax, actually, who just came back, said she hopes Ronda Rousey comes back to WWE sometime soon so she can knock her out for real. And honestly, I still think it's a work. I honestly do, just because by all accounts, Ronda Rousey got along very well backstage with all the other women. She was very very humble, wasn't full of herself, and things like that. So that's just my opinion. I think it's a work. I think it's leading to her coming back and having heat, because she did work much better as a heel than as a babyface, and I think this is just kind of building more on that, and getting her position to come back whenever she's ready to come back, or whenever she's able to come back. So, but that's my opinion. So we'll see what happens. Moving into AEW, AEW finally has announced a secondary championship, what they're calling the TNT Championship, which basically kind of like a television championship. I like it. Obviously, TNT is the network that they're on, so I would assume, but that's the primary place you're going to see this title defended is on TNT, on Dynamite. But hey, the old WCW TV Championship was defended more than just on television, so we'll have to see what exactly the rules are for this title. But the tournament is looking pretty good. We had the first match this past week, Cody taking on Shawn Spears. Cody was victorious in that one, so he moves to the next round. The other three matches in the first round are Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin, which should be a fantastic match between those two guys. Dustin Rhodes taking on Kip Sabian, and Colt Cabana taking on Lance Archer. Now, my picks to move on are Darby Allin, Dustin Rhodes, and Lance Archer. So that would make the semifinals Cody versus Darby Allin again for the third time. I can't wait to see that one if it happens. And the other semifinal, Dustin versus Lance Archer. I would expect Archer to win that one. But hey, I would have no problem seeing Cody versus Dustin in the finals for this title. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think we're going to see Cody Rhodes as a champion in AEW anytime soon, if at all. Because I don't think he wants people to look at him like, he's the EVP. He's just giving himself the title and things like that. Because I know a lot of people back in the day, that was kind of how they felt about Dusty, and I don't see Cody doing that. So I'm looking at a final for this TNT title of Darby Allin versus Lance Archer, which is going to be a very interesting match because you've got a huge size disparity there. Archer, just an enormous person, and Darby Allin, as great as he is in the ring, not a very big guy. So it's just going to be a clash in size, clash in styles, and I can't wait to see that match. Hopefully that is what the final's going to be. That's what my pick is. So we'll have to see how that works out. So that's pretty much all I've got for news and rumors for the week. I'm going to right now throw it over to Charlie G. He's got all of your independent wrestling goings-on, news, results, and everything else, and this is the Indie Cut.
Thank you, Tom, and hey to wrestling friends. I am Charlie G with the Indie Cut. There was very little indie wrestling action and some news to recap, so let's get to it with Pro Wrestling Noah from March 29th. Their 20th anniversary show, The Chronicle Volume 2. They had a junior heavyweight tag team match, a national title match, a junior heavyweight title match, and a heavyweight title match versus Go Shiozaki against Kazuki Fujita, which lasted 57 minutes, 47 seconds. Now this was the oddest match I've ever seen, where both men just stood in the ring for 30 minutes doing nothing, other than sliding from corner to corner every 9 minutes or so. Once they hit the fourth corner, the match broke out, in and out of the ring, where Fujita tried to throw Shiozaki through a couple of doors, trying to lead outside, but officials stopped him each time. Funny spots. If he would have went through the door, who knows what would have happened in Japan. They ended up on a balcony where Fujita tried to throw Shiozaki over to no avail. That would have been interesting as well. Once they got back in the ring, it got slow and grinding. I missed the finish, so Shiozaki retained in an odd, wild match. They're at Corrigan Hall with no attendance, so they were able to do this non-movement for 30 minutes since there was no crowd to boo or hiss or whatever. I watched the show since I had the opportunity, even though I had no idea who was who, and just wanted to give it a look. I'm not sure I will, but Pro Wrestling Noah is pretty decent, but there'll be news later on about them as well. Next up on April the 3rd, Tokiyoshi Pro 10 versus 10, red and white winning match in their dojo with no attendance. It was a 20-woman elimination gauntlet match, which was the first 30 minutes was free on YouTube, so if you want to take a look, please do. Team White had Hirano Nico, Karanoa, Mina Shirakawa, Mira Miyomi, Miyu Watanabe, Mayu Yamashita, Mizuki, Rika Tatsuma, Yuko Ono, Yuka Kamafuku. They defeated Team Red and Hyper Michio, Mihara Kairu, Maki Ito, Nodeka Tenma, Pam Harajuku, Raiku, Sina Sierra, Shoka Nakajima, Suzumi, and Yuna Manase. The final match was between Rika Tatsuma of Team White defeating Saka Nakajima of Team Red. All short matches, so I was surprised only 30 minutes was on for free. Next up was DDT Universe Live April Fool with no attendance on the 4th of April. The main matches to me were Chris Brooks tagging with Dansoko Dino versus the Moonlight Express of Mayo and Mike Bailey to a no contest. And the main event was the KOD 6-man tag team title match of El Lindemann, T-Hawk, and Tatsuya Endo, champions, defeating Disaster Box of Hiroshima, Naomi Hiroshimiro, and Yuki Uno. I did not see any half of these, so I'm just giving some extra coverage. Then on the 4th also was Dragon Gate at Kobo Sambo Hall with also no attendance. Actually, El Lucha Memes Carabil here in Mexico on April the 5th with the headline matches of Aramis defeating Piero de Guerrero Jr., Psychosis 2 defeating Toxin, and Ricky Marvin defeating Aries. So Lucha Libre is still kind of getting some shows out there, but they had no attendance as well. In Big Japan Wrestling, the Strong Climb Day 9, they're on the 5th of April. It looks like they were in some center filming theirs, and it looks like that will be the last day of wrestling until May. So Pro Wrestling Noah continued with a tag league on the 5th, and Noah TV Studios. So if you have DDT Universe, you can check this out. Day 2 is on the 7th, with the main tag match of Dr. Wagner Jr. and Rene Dupree, who knew, defeating Kanoi and Masa Kitayama. Weird to see Dr. Wagner over in Japan, and Rene Dupree also tagging in Japan. Day 3 was on the 10th. Now it sounds like they will continue the tag league, but might not be able to show the final. Then All Japan, We Can Do Now, did another no attendance show on the 6th. And back here in the States, Limitless Wrestling, Pandemic at the Dojo, which is their dojo in Maine, on April the 7th. You can catch us on independentwrestling.tv if you can. With Danger Kid defeating Ava Everett, Kenny Lee of Alexander Lee and Kennedy Copeland defeating Even Stevens of Steven Azure and Steve Somerset, D.L. Hurst defeating Love Doug, Rip Bison defeating Frank Jager, and Anthony Green defeating Basic Becca. Now, if you're a fan of Shakara Wrestling, they are still doing Saturday shows, also on Independent Wrestling TV. Then on the Fight app, I noticed OWE has returned to action, which shows from April the 8th and the 10th. They have one scheduled for the 13th, but for $4.99. It was a little rough with the commentating sync, but that could be because they're now live from their new home base of Cambodia. That's right, OWE left China due to lack of interest and moved everything, but not everyone, to Cambodia, since a lot of guys went back to Japan for New Year's. To China for New Year's, so half their crew is not with them. You can check out the 8th and 10th shows for free. Give them a chance with their audio. I know they're working things out. Hopefully it gets better. For $4.99, if you can. Good luck to all the best to you if you can't. I'm sure there'll be more shows to come, as they said. Now for the news from Japan, on Tuesday the 7th, their Prime Minister announced a month-long state of emergency for Tokyo and 6 other prefectures as part of the government's response to the pandemic. 3 promotions who have been trying to restart announced cancellations, which includes Pro Wrestling NOLA canceling their April 25th and 29th and May 9th shows, which I'm guessing was the finals of their Tag League tournament. Big Japan canceled everything it had planned for April, moving several events to late June and early July. I believe that is true because I have not seen any Big Japan events since Mania Weekend. For Stardom, called off everything through May 6th, so I don't know if Tokyo Joshi Pro is going to do the same thing. And New Japan kept announcing cancellations week by week, but they have declared canceling everything until May the 4th. So it looks like Japan Wrestling is now pretty much none until May. Finally, I talked about promotions on Twitch, but there are a lot of wrestlers with their own channels as well. So if you miss seeing them wrestle, at least you can follow along with whatever they're doing. Here are a few promotions wrestlers I like to watch. Progress is doing their own with shows and gaming. So look up this_is_progress for their Twitch feed. It's pretty cool. I got to see a couple shows I did not see before. And they are taking donations for their crew and talent. The High Spots Wrestling Network, which I've really enjoyed. Keeps on doing shows and interviews and whatnot. I saw a couple of PWG stuff, which is always fun to see. Then there's Joey Janela with his The Bad Boy Janela channel. He is showing old wrestling shows that he likes, and you can watch along with him when he gives a little news and notes of his own. He did do his own Mania Weekend special, 3 nights of matches last week. Pretty cool. Some were of his matches, of course, and some were just some crazy out there ones. He's taken donations to help charities during the COVID-19, so that's really cool of him. Now for the wrestlers, Kip Sabian, Penelope Ford, Shanna, Effie, Jessica Havoc, Cesaro, of course, Xavier Woods, Evil Uno, Leva Bates, Mia Yim, and Paige all have channels, as well as Amber Moon, which was pretty cool. I caught her on Thursday playing Mario Kart, but she has giveaways, so check out Half Dragon EM for her feed. It's pretty cool from what I saw, and she's just at home with her boyfriend doing cooking, playing games, what have you, so it's cool to see. I'm sure there are a lot more, but those are the ones who popped up for me. So check out Twitch or YouTube and anything else that you can do to help everyone during this time. That's a wrap for me. Till next time. I don't know how much indie news I will have, but if it does, I'll be here. If not, who knows what I'll be doing. Thanks for watching or listening. Keep safe, everyone. Wash those hands. And back to you, Tom.
All right, that is Charlie G with your Indie Cut. So normally right now is where I would have the troll of the week, but honestly, since this lockdown's been going on, I have not been spending too much time on social media, and that's not exactly good for as far as promoting the show. But it's definitely good for my sanity. But so I do not have a troll of the week this week. So all of you trolls and assholes and jerk-offs out there, you get a reprieve for 1 week. But it'll be back next week. I'll pay a little bit more attention to what's going on online, because, there's always somebody out there trying to stir up trouble. But I'm going to move right into the next portion of the show, which is one of my favorites, and I'm talking about the Fantasy Booker. Alright, so this week's Fantasy Booker comes from, basically from the news earlier this week that I had talked about the Revival getting released by WWE. And my Fantasy Booker for this week, the Revival versus the North. The North, of course, is the Impact World Tag Team Champions. Talking about All Ego, Ethan Page, and Josh Alexander, and two of the best tag teams in the world right now, possibly the two best tag teams in the world right now as far as just in ring, as far as wrestling goes. And I've actually got an interview coming up a little bit, actually right after this in the show with Steve Tortorello, the promoter for Warrior Wrestling, and we talk about this very match because this is a match that is now a possibility to happen now that the Revival is no longer in the WWE. I mean, they could potentially go to Impact and have have a match with the North there, have a run in Impact, or this could happen on the independent scene. The North, of course, has done matches at Warrior Wrestling. Warrior Wrestling is a place where this match could conceivably take place now. It sounds definitely from the interview with Steve, sounds like something he's excited about. I'm excited for the potential that it could actually happen. I mean, this would, the only kind of throwback match that I could compare this to would be like the Heart Foundation taking on the Brainbusters. And there's going to be some people out there that hate me for making that comparison with these two teams, but it is what it is. This would be an instant classic tag team match if these two were to get in there and hook it up. So hopefully it's something that can and will happen as soon as we're able to start having wrestling shows again. So that is my Fantasy Booker for this week. The Revival versus the North, guaranteed to be an instant classic as far as tag team wrestling goes. So next up, as I was just saying, I am going to cut to an interview that I had with Steve Tortorello a couple of days ago. Just talking about wrestling in general, the state of the indie wrestling scene with this COVID-19 quarantine that's going on everywhere right now. And just talking some wrestling, having some fun, talking about WrestleMania. For those of you watching on video, the video does freeze partway through, but thankfully neither one of us has a goofy look on our face or anything like that, so I'm just going to leave the video in there. But the audio works just fine, so those of you that listening on audio only, you won't notice anything. But if you're watching on the YouTube channel, channel about 2/3 of the way through. The video freezes just because, well, Skype sucks sometimes, but it is what it is. So right now I'm going to cut to that interview with principal of Marian Catholic High School and the promoter for Warrior Wrestling, Steve Tortorello. What's going on, everybody? This is Tom with Catch, Hook, and Shoot, and I am here with the principal of Marian Catholic High School, as well as the promoter of what, in my opinion, is the best independent wrestling company out there right now, Warrior Wrestling, Mr. Steve Tortorello. How you doing today, Steve?
I am great, Tom, and thank you for that very, very wonderful introduction. Hopefully we can live up to that.
You guys have every time I've been there. I'll say that much. So, yeah, let's dive right in here. What are you thinking about all this craziness going on in the world right now?
You know, it's incredible for a variety of reasons. Obviously, the health crisis is very scary for all of us who are living through it and those who have family members that are sick or susceptible to being sick. From a wrestling standpoint, it's very interesting because the world is basically stopped. And as much as everyone's trying to do empty arena shows or things like that, it just feels like life paused. Like life was always going forward in wrestling, and then it just froze and stopped. And so even internally for Warrior Wrestling, we were thinking, oh, we were going to do a show in late May or early June, and now we're going to do a show question mark because we don't know when it's going to be normal again. So it's just a really odd time. But at the same time, you've got all these wonderful people reaching out and doing really incredible creative things. So you take the good with the bad, but man, we've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, definitely. And like you were talking about, the empty arena shows, of course, we're seeing a lot of those from like the bigger companies like WWE and AEW and stuff. But this is really having a big impact on independent wrestling because
Yes.
they rely on that live audience. I mean, a lot of them have internet pay-per-view and things like that, but their, bread and butter financially is the live crowd. So
Yeah.
it's, having a big impact on the independent scene and the independent wrestlers.
Absolutely. It's totally impossible to host an independent wrestling show right now, just because of the upfront costs and what percentage of the operating budget of any independent wrestling federation is tickets? 90%, right? And so you say, oh, we'll just set up a ring and do some matches and put it on Fight TV or put it on independentwrestling.tv. Well, the upfront cost to do that is such that you're basically just losing all that money. You're losing the money of the cost of venue, insurance, ring, wrestlers, promotion, etc., because you're not making any of it back in ticket revenue. So it's impossible to run an independent wrestling show right now. I think the closest thing we could have seen, and kudos to Mikey Blanton from Black Label and to Matt Nix from Freelance, they were going to try to do empty arena shows early on, but once the travel bans kicked in and the number of people in a room kicked in, they ultimately weren't able to do it. But outside of something like that, there's not much you can do. So right now, independent wrestling is frozen.
Right, and you're kind of getting hit double with it because you're also a school principal and all the schools are shut down. So
Yeah.
I can imagine your life has kind of screeched to a halt right now.
Well, the school end has actually been pretty busy. We switched immediately first day over to full digital school, which we were very blessed. We've been one-to-one with iPads for the last 6 years. And anytime we've had a snow day in the last 5 or 6 years, we just do a digital day of school and we don't have to make up the snow day. So our kids and our teachers had a pretty good rhythm of what that looked like. So we've been doing school. Right now we're actually on spring break, but the 3 weeks prior, we've been doing school. And while it's been a challenge, especially for those teachers who have young kids at home to balance everything, for the most part, we're keeping pace with what we would normally do educationally. So I'm working from 7 o'clock every day to 3:30 every day, doing school stuff and meetings and teaching my class virtually. But the wrestling end has just frozen. And so, after I close my computer in the afternoon, it's like, all right, now what do I do?
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, I know like my son, he goes to Chicago public schools and they're little not quite caught up, to that
Yeah.
level yet, but they are starting with their virtual learning on Monday is when it officially starts. I mean, they've been kind of keeping up with classwork here and there
Yeah.
since the school shut down, but then Monday starts like the actual structured, scheduled type stuff. So, and I feel so bad for my son though. He's a senior, so he's pretty much losing his graduation, his prom, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
it's
literally before we jumped on our call today, I was talking to a few of our administrators as we're planning for makeup days for graduation and prom and looking at a variety of different options and plans. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know the my son's school, they've been, kind of talking about trying to do that stuff over the summer if everything's back to semi-normal by then, but it's kind of a wait and see type of game.
Yeah, absolutely. No one knows.
So, getting back into some wrestling stuff here, I got to ask, did you watch WrestleMania?
I watched it in bits and chunks, a little bit live and a little bit the days after. Honestly, for me, WrestleMania over the last several years has gotten way too long. It's almost like undigestible. So last year I barely watched. I had it in the background on mute except for a couple matches. And this year my girlfriend and I were watching other things on TV, doing other things, and I'd check in and watch a match here. If I heard something was great, I watched chunks of it the next day. So I saw all of the big things. I just didn't watch it live.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like the 2 day format because, like you said, the last few years it
Agreed.
has gotten extremely long. I like that they split it into 2 days this time. I wish they would do that permanently going forward if it's going to
Agreed.
be that big of a show. But I'm curious to know your opinion of the I guess they're calling them quote unquote cinematic matches, like
Mm-hmm.
the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse match. I thought the Boneyard match I really liked. The Firefly Funhouse match is kind of for me, but I found
Mm-hmm.
it entertaining. But what's your opinion on those kind of cinematic matches?
Great question. So going in, I thought they were going to be disasters because I remember they did a match a couple of years ago where Randy Orton fought Bray Wyatt in like a House of Horrors match, and it
Hmm.
was awful. And so
Yeah.
going in, I was like, this is just going to be an absolute, travesty. But I read on the first night on Twitter, everybody said the Boneyard match was amazing. So the morning of day two, I watched the Boneyard match, and it was fantastic. It was basically an action scene from a movie. If you know going in, like, all right, they're going to do like a bad Jean-Claude Van Damme movie fight scene for
Hmm.
20 minutes, but it'll be cool and unique and creative. And if you, checked your critical thinking at the door and just enjoyed it, I thought the Boneyard match was great. It was just a
Oh
fight.
yeah. Yeah, and I was so scared when they announced this match because I'm a huge Undertaker mark. I think everybody knows
Yep.
that. But I started having flashbacks of I don't know if you remember years ago there was a graveyard match between Sting and Vampiro in WCW, and it was terrible.
Oh gosh.
So
Yeah.
that
Same
was
thing.
the first thing I thought of.
After I watched it on Sunday morning, I watched it. And I texted probably 7 or 8 of my different buddies and said, "Undertaker can do this every year for a decade. He should never. Why should he be broken down in a ring ever again? Just let have Undertaker have a cinematic match every year at WrestleMania. It'll get old eventually, but this was great."
Right, and I tend to agree. I mean, if they keep it to once a year, don't start doing this kind of thing like every month, but once a year for the Undertaker at WrestleMania, I think it could be a really big part of WrestleMania. And the idea was actually thrown out there. They talked about it on WWE backstage. This could be the way we could finally see the Undertaker versus Sting.
Yes, exactly. Why not? And I saw somebody tweet that out, and it's brilliant. So yeah, Boneyard match I thought was incredibly well done. And I love this about the in-ring arena matches too. The trash talking was perfect because it
Hmm.
added so much to it, and that's something Kevin Owens has been doing for 10 years. But it adds so much. If they're supposed to be in a fight, they should be talking trash to each other. There should be character advancement, story advancement while they're fighting, as if it was a great fight scene in a movie. And so I thought Undertaker and AJ just hit everything, hit every nail on the head. I thought it was perfect. Many people tweeted, and I agreed. The only thing that was missing was "Rollin'" by Limp Bizkit at the end as he drives off. That I thought would have been the
Hmm.
perfect cap. Now that he's back to being the American badass, apparently. But I thought it was great. Boneyard match, total thumbs up.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like, that they used the Metallica song for it. Again, Metallica
Hmm.
is my absolute favorite band, so you're talking my favorite band doing the entrance for my favorite wrestler. That for me, that was absolutely perfect. So I
Yeah.
thought that was great. The only issue I had with that match was at the very end after AJ got buried and they showed his hand sticking up out of the grave. The hand just looked bad. It looked really, really fake.
Yeah, they did that with Mankind in the first one in '96 too. And I don't know if it was supposed to be just to have a cool shot or to tell the audience, like, no, we didn't actually murder this guy. I don't know why they do that, but each one that they've done, I think they've done that shot at the end.
Hmm. So now on the flip side of that, what did you think about the Firefly Funhouse match? Like you said, the first thing I thought of was the House of Horrors match with Randy Orton, which was just bad. This, a little bit different. I wouldn't even
Yeah.
exactly call this a wrestling match.
Nope, it was a segment. It was Bray Wyatt takes John Cena to hell through John Cena's own mind and career. And for what it was, I thought it was brilliant. I really did. I thought all of the insider things it played off of, that Cena is like Hogan, Cena beat Bray at 30 and that squashed Bray. And yeah, I thought there's this long-standing theory that people have that the Fiend is slowly but surely avenging all of Bray Wyatt's losses. So everyone that ever hurt Bray Wyatt, the Fiend is the alter ego that's coming to lash out and destroy them. And so in that way, I think the story kept really well with that. I think Cena was great in the role. I think it was really, really creative. And actually, as it was going on, I was thinking to myself, John Cena needs to win this. Like literally, this demon is dragging him through hell. Like, how can he not win this? But no, Bray won it. Or won it. So I thought it was good. I was entertained. I was very much entertained throughout all of it. I was not expecting a wrestling match. I didn't get a wrestling match. Whatever I got was interesting and entertaining.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree. Like I said, I found the Firefly match. I thought it was entertaining. It was not at all what I expected. I think the people who had, because there was a lot of trash talked about this match online, but I think the people who were doing that were expecting a wrestling match, or at least more of a fight, kind of like I think they were trying to compare it to Taker and AJ from the previous day,
Yeah.
and so I think that's kind of where it lost some people, because they were, expecting one thing and then they got something else. But yeah, like you said, for what it was, I thought it was pretty good. It was entertaining. I think I made a comparison to one of my buddies. I'm like, is this what it's like taking acid? Because it
Yeah,
was just kind of crazy.
I would
But
imagine it is.
yeah, and so getting back to just the empty arena stuff in general, I know you're talking about, you get to hear the trash talking between the guys. And one of the things that I was not, I wouldn't say concerned about, but one of the things I was wondering about is like, are we going to be, you know, or I was thinking we're going to be hearing these guys calling their spots a lot more, because every now and then on TV, you'll hear somebody call out their spot a little bit too loud and it gets caught on camera. I'm sitting
Mm.
here thinking we're going to be hearing a lot of that, but that hasn't been the case, which I think kind of speaks to the ability of the people in the ring.
Yes, yeah, I think there's two tracks on that. Number one is you've got some really talented people who don't need to do that. So I was always amazed whenever I went to PWG that at PWG there is no guardrail. The knees of the people in the first row touch the ring curtain, the apron, and like you're so close to the action in PWG, and you never heard or saw any spot calling because the people in the ring were so good, and
Mhm.
and they just and I have an eye for this just because I've been watching wrestling for forever, and I can watch people call spots, watch people do certain sequences that set up other things to tell the other guy in the ring something. Never saw it once in PWG because of the level of work and level of worker. So part of it is that. So I think like Rollins and Owens didn't need to ever call a spot. They just are so good they can go out there and do it. The flip side is they had all weeks and weeks and weeks to rehearse these matches, and
Mhm.
they could yell cut if they saw an audible spot call. So I think from what I've heard, there were a lot of spots in many of the in-ring matches where they actually stopped the match and redid a spot as needed. So I think it was a combination of you had really great workers and the people that weren't, the magic of post-production.
That's true, because a lot of it is pre-recorded now. We're not getting so much live TV,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, just the fact that WrestleMania was in an empty arena was just crazy, because you're used to seeing tens upon tens of thousands of people at WrestleMania, and this time it was just the wrestlers, the announcers, and the camera crew, and it was just
Yeah.
a completely different vibe for WrestleMania.
Yeah, it was just strange, but you know what? It will be to a different extent, kind of like WrestleMania 9, which was at Caesar's Palace. The idea of
Hmm.
like, well, that was the Roman one. This was the empty arena one. It will be
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, very, very good point. So, moving away from WrestleMania a little bit, let's talk a little bit about Warrior. I mean, obviously, Warrior 9 kind of up in the air right now.
Yes.
Was there? I'm sure it was somewhere in the planning stages when all this came down that there couldn't be any kind of gatherings. But like, how far along were you guys as far as planning Warrior 9 when you found out you wouldn't be able to do it?
We had narrowed it down to a couple of dates. We were hoping to do late May or early June, and we were in talks with a lot of different stars, and we had some match ideas, and nothing was committed, nothing was paid for, anything like that. But we had a really good sense of what we wanted to do, and we had a couple different options that I won't reveal quite yet because you'll probably see them in future Warrior shows. But if we were going to go with option one, so to speak, where it's going to be a certain date with a certain crew of people, option two would be another date. But we were pretty close, and honestly, our wheels turn pretty quickly after a Warrior show is over, even sometimes before the show happens, as to what the next show is going to be. Because honestly, totally transparently, we just love doing this, And so if we have a great show and we're sitting there after the show and everything's been picked up and cleaned up and we're enjoying the last beer and hot dog, we go, all right, what do we do next? And so we were already in the very early planning stages, and then the world went on hold. So even now, Eric and I text pretty much every day about different wrestling ideas and things. So, for example, today, obviously, we just heard that the Revival has been released from their contracts with WWE. So I've already got a dozen texts from different people like, "You're getting the Revival, right?" Like, well, we're going to try. So the wheels are always turning. But for the next show, we are at the mercy of reality. And so I very much doubt that we will ever put a date on the books until we know that we're getting better as a society and things are going to be doable, because to put a date on the books and then cancel it doesn't do anything. So we'll probably wait until we know that that things are safe. And we actually surveyed our fans too. We put out a survey to anybody who's pre-bought Warrior tickets, and we got 300 responses in like 2 days, which was amazing, asking people, what do you want to see? How soon do you want to see us back? And the overwhelming consensus, like 60% of the respondents, said wait at least a month after the all clear date before you run a Warrior show. So that's probably what we'll do. We ask the people, and that's likely what we're going to do.
Yeah, and that sounds like a good idea rather than just like rushing it out there, take some time to plan it. And if I can throw my 2 cents in, I think the Revival versus the North would be just an amazing main event.
You are one of many who has texted or said that today, and I may or may not have already tried to put out some feelers to see if that's possible.
Yeah, because that actually I do a segment on the show every week called the Fantasy Booker, where I just kind of throw matches together of stuff that I'd want to see as a fan that it either just isn't possible for whatever reason or just has never happened. And actually, after I read about the Revival's release, my fantasy booking segment for this week is the Revival versus the North. That would just
Yes.
be that would be a classic tag team match.
Oh, I think it'd be incredible. I absolutely do. And that's our goal for Warrior. We've talked about this before. We kind of see ourselves as this crossroads, this train station, where you have people in different worlds, be it Impact, Ring of Honor, AEW, New Japan, coming out of WWE, Mexico. And there are so many matches that can't happen in those worlds because guys belong to those different worlds, but we're the crossroads in the middle of those worlds. So you know what? Wherever the Revival go, let's say the Revival don't go to Impact. Well, then where in the world could you see the Revival versus the North? Warrior Wrestling's a possibility. We want to be that crossroads where guys and girls from different promotions can interact, and you never thought you'd see it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about Warrior, just going back to Warrior 8, you guys crowned a new Warrior champion in Brian Pillman Jr., who I actually got an interview with that night, which was awesome.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, Warrior 8 was an amazing show. Of course, Brian Cage had to give up the title that night, and that's how we ended up with Brian Pillman Jr. as the new champion. So I'm hoping by the time all this is over and done with and we can start having gatherings again, I'm really hoping to see that match between Brian Cage and Brian Pillman.
And you know what? They are very much looking forward to it as well. I've talked to Cage a little bit in the weeks since Warrior 8, and his recovery is going really well. He's ahead of schedule. So the predicted schedule of what a wrestler should be able to recover from this. Brian had his own internal schedule ahead of that, and he's on his own internal schedule. And he and I basically said we got to find the date. Once we're able to do it, Cage is coming back for that belt, and he very honestly, transparently said, "Steve, I don't want Pillman to defend it against anybody else. I want that first match to be me and him." And I said, "Deal, big man." So if we can do it, if everybody's healthy when we're all back together, Cage versus Pillman is happening.
And I can't wait to see that one because that's definitely a clash in style, a clash in size with those two guys. But I think it would be just an awesome match. Another one I've been noticing Cage kind of throwing out there on social media, and I don't know if this is something that could happen at Warrior, but Cage and Kenny Omega. Cage has kind of been dropping, because they both do the, their thing is the Terminator clap or the Terminator drum beat. And, actually both of them have kind of, Kenny Omega's not super active on social media, but they've both kind of been dropping hints that they want this match.
Yes. So full transparency, curtain pulled fully back. We have been trying to make this happen for over a year and a half now. So
Wow.
Kenny, in fall of 18, Kenny briefly did an NEW show, Northeast Wrestling, against Phoenix up in New England. And there was a brief time there where Kenny was free from his New Japan commitments because they were between tours. They had the Jericho Cruise coming up, and he did that NEW show. We reached out and tried to get something together then for Kenny versus Cage. It didn't work. And then AEW came about, and then Kenny was kind of on ice for all of 2019 as AEW was coming together, and the guys weren't wrestling elsewhere, especially the EVPs. So as we understand it, Kenny's contract does allow for him to take matches outside of AEW. And so we very much are in Brian Cage's boat campaigning for that match. I think it would be incredible. I think they're two of the best wrestlers in the world, and I think it would be absolutely phenomenal. So if anybody knows Kenny and wants to pass this along, we are happy to host him.
That would be awesome. And of course, I'm a little biased about wanting it to happen at Warrior because then that means I get to be on the call on the audio for the podcast. So I think that'd be awesome. I mean, last time at going back to Warrior 8 for a second, the Women's War of Attrition match, when it got down to the final two of Tessa and Taya, they ended up literally on our table during the match. And my buddy Charlie, who calls the matches with me, I mean, Taya was literally in his lap. So
yeah, they went all over the place.
Yeah, that was just it was awesome. I mean, it was an experience to say the least. Charlie was just kind of in heaven. I'm like, please don't break my laptop. So,
yep, the danger of when wrestlers get out of the cages and roam the zoo.
Yeah, but it was just an awesome experience, as Warrior always is, honestly. But yeah, so that's really all I got. I mean, I just wanted to get you on the show, talk some wrestling, see what you thought about WrestleMania and all this empty arena stuff that's going on, and see where we're at as far as planning out Warrior 9. I know you can't really plan a date yet because we have no idea when we're going to be let out of the house, but but it will. I mean, we can safely say Warrior 9 will definitely be coming though at some point.
Absolutely. We're not going anywhere. The moment it's safe and it makes sense, there will be a Warrior 9, and we are going to throw the biggest wrestling party you've ever seen. So get ready, everybody. Save up your money. We're going to do it big, and we're going to do it in a way that everybody will remember.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I actually just read shortly before we got on here that I guess looks like the XFL is done. They basically announced that they didn't use the word shut down, but they said they're suspending operations and they're not planning for a 2021 season.
And
so
they have laid off their entire staff too.
Yeah, and that's just kind of a casualty of the world we're living in right now. So, it's definitely hitting hard a lot of places, and in this particular case, hitting Vince McMahon's wallet really hard.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a lot of money to spare, but he's definitely losing a lot of it this year.
Oh yeah, I mean the revenue that they lost on WrestleMania, and now with the XFL apparently going under. I mean, how many hundreds of millions of dollars are we talking about?
Yeah, well, and that's real quick. Meltzer had said that because the WWE stock has dropped so much this year with the firing of Barrios and Wilson, and they never got the big WrestleMania. Like the ESPN Plus thing that they were hoping for, et cetera. As the stock price drops significantly, Vince's self-worth drops or gets cut in half. And so it's easy for Vince to absorb 400 million in losses when he's worth 1.3 billion. But if he loses half of his net worth, all of a sudden absorbing 400 million in losses is not as digestible. So
right.
That's what happened.
Yeah, and a lot of people say, oh, it's hard to feel sorry for a billionaire, but like you said, when that $1 billion bank account is contingent on stock prices, and those stock prices plummet, that tends to disappear pretty quick.
Yep, absolutely.
But all right, well, I'll let you go, let you get back to enjoying your day off here. So you said you're on spring break. I'm guessing you start back to school, quote unquote, next week.
Yep, next Tuesday we'll be back. So I'm going to be taking some nice walks and staying away from people in the next couple days and watching a lot of TV and just enjoying my time.
All right, sounds good. Pretty much the same thing I'm doing here. So, yeah, I appreciate you coming on. Always great having you on the show. Can't wait for the next Warrior show. You know, I'll be there ringside broadcasting like I have been the last couple. I still cannot thank you enough for giving me that opportunity. Like I said, especially with Warrior 8, you know, we were a little bit more comfortable, had our groove going, and it's just it's an awesome time.
Tom, it's great to have you guys. I love the added element that the live play-by-play gives to those listeners who aren't able to be there in person. And let's keep doing it, and for as long as we're all happy and healthy.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Steve. Enjoy your next couple of days off before heading back to work. And yeah, I will talk to you soon.
You got it, sir. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you. All right,
Bye,
so
Tom.
that was my interview with Steve Tortorello, promoter for Warrior Wrestling. Like I said, in my opinion, the best indie wrestling company out there right now. They have some of the best matches, get some of the best talent that you could possibly ask for. And yeah, if you ever have the opportunity to check out a Warrior Wrestling show, get to Chicago. Check it out. You will not be sorry. And, you know I've basically become a shill for Warrior Wrestling, but it's my honest to God opinion. You know, they're not paying me anything. I love this company. They put on some fantastic wrestling shows, and it's all for a good cause. It goes to benefit the school. So, you know, if you have an opportunity, check out Warrior Wrestling. You will not be disappointed with it. So, getting into my my last segment of the show here, where I talk about just kind of what usually would probably be considered an unpopular opinion, but it's from my point of view, I think it's the truth. I think it's the way it is, and of course, I am talking about the weekly hot take. So my hot take for this week is cinematic matches, like what we saw at WrestleMania for the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse match, and to a certain extent, the Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano match was some of the same style. It didn't have obviously the special effects, if you want to call it that, or anything like that, but just kind of, like I said, just kind of the style of it, the filming style of it. These cinematic type matches, they are going to become more common. Not hopefully not something that we're going to see on a weekly or even a monthly basis, but I think it's something that we are going to see semi-regularly. At the very least, I think we're going to see it at least once a year at WrestleMania. Like the Boneyard match, I think is probably going to be a staple of The Undertaker going forward. At least that's how I would book it. If he is going to continue to be a quote-unquote in-ring performer, I think the Boneyard match should be his signature match going forward, because it could help to prolong his career, like you just heard me and Steve talking about. You know, Steve said he could do those for the next 10 years, and he realistically could. And, you know, it allows for a lot more, I guess, movie magic, if you want to say it that way, the cinematic type matches. You know, it allows for... it's obviously got a larger margin of error than a standard wrestling match, because you can cut and refilm and do that kind of thing. So, obviously, as we saw with the Boneyard match, when it's done right, it can be very, very good. But I said earlier, the cinematic matches, they can be hit or miss. Look at the Graveyard match that I mentioned before between Sting and Vampiro from back in WCW days. The match was bad. A lot of people thought the Firefly Funhouse match was bad. I'm not one of them, but a lot of people were not that thrilled with that match. But the Boneyard match was pretty much universally liked across the board. Most people loved it, myself included. So I think it's something that we're going to start seeing. Hopefully not more than once a year, but I mean, knowing WWE, I could see them making an entire pay-per-view around it, which I hope they don't do. I hope it doesn't end up being, we're going to see one of these cinematic matches once a month at every pay-per-view, because it would get old very quickly. But if you use them sparingly, and like I said, at most once a year, and keep it, for right now, keep it for The Undertaker, keep it for the Boneyard match. I think it's something that's going to become more common, and like I said, if when it's done well, it's very, very good. So hopefully going forward, that's what we're going to see. Like I said, no more than once a year. If you have maybe 2 on WrestleMania like they did this year, not necessarily the Firefly Funhouse match every time, but you have the Boneyard match and maybe one other one. I could see that, but no more than that. But yeah, so that's my hot take for the week. The cinematic matches are going to become more common in this current era of pro wrestling, especially the way things are right now. We may see more of them within the next couple of months, just because it's easier for them to film something like that, because it requires less. I would think it requires less people on hand to do it. So. I don't know. We'll have to see, but yeah, that's my hot take. Is that cinematic matches are going to become more common in the world of pro wrestling. So that's pretty much everything I got for this week. Hope everybody, like I said, is staying safe and staying healthy, not traveling too far from home unnecessarily. Hope all of the essential workers are staying safe and staying healthy, and hope everybody else is doing what you're supposed to do. I mean, stay home, guys. There's no reason why you should be why anybody should be upset or unhappy or angry about staying in their own house. It's your house. That's where you live. You shouldn't have an issue with staying there for a few weeks. But apparently some people do, because a lot of people just don't want to listen. They're still out there doing whatever, and it's just pure stupidity and selfishness, honestly, because they're not thinking about anybody else. They're thinking about themselves. So anyway, that's my little rant on that one for today. But yeah, hope you guys, like I said, hope everybody's staying safe and healthy. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. I want to give a real quick shout out to my friends who joined me on Facebook Live yesterday when I did my little experiment of Name That Tune, the Wrestling Edition. Trying just having some fun, and found out there's some bugs that need to be worked out of it, because apparently there's a bit of a delay with Facebook Live, because some people were not hearing the songs I was playing at the same time. It was, somebody was hearing it like 5-6 seconds before everybody else, and it wasn't, it wasn't ideal, but like I said, it was just for fun, so just seeing how it went, and, it was fun, and I think next time I do something like that, I'm going to probably do it on Twitch, to hopefully not have that problem with the delay and people seeing it at different times or hearing it at different times. But we'll have to see. Or, maybe I'll do it on the just on the Podbean app, since it's just an audio thing. Maybe it and it's got a comment section. Maybe I'll just do it as a live podcast and do it on the Podbean app. Maybe that'll work a little bit better. So we'll see. But it's definitely something I want to try out again, because it was fun. And thank you to Charlie, my brother Patrick, his son Noah, my my cousin Vince, and my buddy Mexico. Yes, that's his name. and his son Xavier, who all jumped on, and we're having some fun naming some wrestling tunes, and pulling out some old stuff to try and throw them off was fun, and seeing some of the crazy answers was entertaining. So but yeah, thank you to you guys for getting on there and helping me out with that little experiment yesterday, and it's definitely something I'll be doing again. I just got to figure out what platform I'm going to do it on. But for right now, I'm going to sign off. Hope everybody has a great week. Hope everybody stays safe, and I will talk to you guys soon.